I spend my week through with the main job that I have, and on my weekends, I spend my time with music. So I appoint my timings accordingly because through the week, as I'm working, I have decided to dedicate myself there. And during the weekend, since I have free time, I put this in. And I think up to the work of Walking Piece of Art, I literally worked up to 7 days a week.
Wow.
Back to back for about 2-3 months, and it was so stressful. And then I finally took a break on one Sunday. Like I cannot.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Lalith Dhanush Show. And today I have with me a junior from my college who's an extremely self-made singer. And this person has done over 100 stage shows just by the age of 22. Her recent song, Walking Piece of Art, I must say is truly a piece of art. You must check it out. And without further ado, let's welcome our very next guest, Vandita Narayan. Now, before I call her on stage, let me remind each one of you to make sure that you subscribe on the button below and leave a comment after you watch the entire section. Now, if you really like this episode, I want you to share this with all your music friends and all the ones who want to aspire to make a career in the music industry. So stay tuned. Hi Vandita.
Hello.
Welcome to the Lalith Dhanush Show. And first of all, I must say, we've been in the same college, but we've never spoken. We've never had a conversation, and I'm so glad our first conversation in face is happening right here.
Yeah, definitely.
How does it feel to be on the show?
I'm really excited to be here because this is one of the first few things that I've accomplished lately that is coming on a show like this. So it's a new thing for me.
Awesome. So I know it's a new thing for you, but going on stage is not a new thing at all. I have seen a lot of your videos. I have seen you perform really well, especially in a lot of gigs that you keep posting on Instagram. So first of all, I want to ask you, were you the same person that you are right now back in college, especially during Jain times?
Not even close.
Why do you say so?
Well, I'd say Jain College Vandita was not as confident as I am now.
Okay.
I don't think she would have believed in the work that she put into, but I'm glad she got through that phase and this happened.
I'm sure, you know, a lot has happened since then. I think it's about, what, 6-7 years now since we moved on from that phase. I remember, you know, talking to my mother and I was telling her that I'm inviting a singer to come and speak on the show, and she was asking me to show some of your songs, and I showed her the period song.
Oh.
And the moment I showed it to her, she was in absolute shock. She's like, do people even sing about it first? But then after 5 or 10 minutes from that, she was in absolute appreciation that you were so bold in doing it. How did this whole period song thing happen to you?
Well, that project came as a surprise to me, first of all. So there is this media house called First Action Media who had to work with this company called The Peach for this. So they were doing this campaign on my period story because, let's face it, we do know how period is really the concept of menstrual cycle is really looked down upon and it's treated as a taboo. So an initiative like this was done so that people would normalize this concept and it would be easier for women to come together for a cause like this. So I was referred by a friend, and I ended up being the singer and the lady in the video.
That's
for
nice.
it. And it was very liberating rather, because it was something new for me. I was only doing live music shows that time. I hadn't started writing my originals much. I just picked it up. I was trying to learn and understand how things work, and this project just came onto my hands, and you know, they were like, we want you to sing the song and be a part of the video. So I managed to learn a lot of detail that goes down behind the recording of the song, the shooting of the video, a lot of the process through promotion and then the release. So it was one hell of a week to get this together.
Oh, I was assuming that it took more than a week, probably a month's time.
Actually, it just took 3 days.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Really? Then I think you must be surrounded with a really skilled and talented team to put that across, because I don't
Yes.
think it was an easy job.
It was not. I think the lyrics was already written, and once I was called to the project, they helped me in understanding on how to express those emotions out there. Because let's face it, I can be a drama queen, but then I'm not entirely. I wasn't prepared enough for the being in front of the screen. So when they taught me how to, emote rather, and be that bossy woman.
Yeah.
I learned how to be more confident in
Yeah.
myself and, go out there. So it was one hell of a week.
Awesome. Now, here's the thing. I really like songs which can convey a story, a message, and the most important thing about this song I felt was every time, it went on mute and you were speaking, right?
Yeah.
Like the conversation part of the song I felt was the best. And was it like all a part of the plan when you were making the song, or
Yes,
how was
yes,
it?
yes. It was already pre-planned, all of it. And it was, they had asked me, so when you're going to sing, you're going to have one emotion. And then later you're going to pause suddenly. And then you're going to move towards talking. And then I had to learn how to get back from this phase back to the singing phase.
Yes.
So it was really challenging at first
Yeah.
because we had Saad Khan, the director, who helped me with who directed the video.
Saad Khan was the guy who works with Dana Seth, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And the director of the movie Humble Politician Nagraj.
Correct.
So he was the director of this video too. So I had to stay serious and I had to laugh, and he was just like, yeah, imagine me in a dress, imagine me doing this, and it just came out right there.
Okay. I mean, I think you need somebody who can impromptu get the best out
Yes,
of you.
yes.
And I think a director or somebody like that is the guiding force there.
Yes, yes.
Now, I know it could be a little bit of a controversial song if you take it to the older generation, especially for women above 45 or 50 who generally don't talk about their periods or what it is to feel at that moment. Did you face any kind of criticism, or did people say, why did you do this?
I did in the beginning. I mean, this was something as nobody really spoke about it much, and it was really looked down upon. We had to hide and take our pads and products while we were going through this without telling the other gender or anything. But when this happened, they were like, we don't do that. Why are you being so open about it? But then in time they understood as to why we need to normalize this, because let's face it, sometimes you do need to normalize it, and you do need, it's a very normal process. It's a very it's something that is very natural in nature. So
Yeah.
it took them a while to come around to liking what I did. But then it went fine in the end. They did not disrespect me for it.
Okay.
Hell no, I wouldn't take that. But we did have a conversation on that. They were like, "Are you sure the crowd prefers that?" But surprisingly, the crowd was more. They reacted in a very positive manner, which really made me happy, and I was a little surprised because that was my first on-screen major project. So when that happened, I was a little scared. Maybe it might take a hit. Maybe it will be a hit, and it was a hit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, I can just look at that song from an educational perspective, and I think I can represent most of the men in India and say that we know that girls do go through periods, but to go through the emotion that a girl goes through that time, I think was so well explained, so subtly put, and I think that video must have done a lot of justice in terms of acknowledging and making a lot of men aware as to what a woman can actually go through.
Exactly.
My favorite line of that song is when you end it towards the last, you say, like, I can do everything that a man could do, but I could do that bleeding. I was like, whoa, that was like a, mic drop moment for me. And I think that was incredible. My mom had such a beautiful smile when she heard that line. I think it did all justice. So kudos to you. Kudos to everybody who worked on that song. It was absolutely bloody amazing.
Thank you.
Now, speaking of your songs, I also watched your latest one, Walking Piece of Art. I hope I got the name right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I also really like how amazingly confident you were despite all the color being splashed on your face, because I don't know how you could stay without like either what do you say, getting either you weren't blinking, you weren't like completely disturbed by the paint. You were so confident. You were in that element. I felt. How did that song go about?
Well, in the beginning, it was an experimental genre because I've never worked on a future-based pop song like that. So I hit up the producer Basic or Harshit, and he sent over a beat. He's like, try something out, you know, just give it a shot, because it was during the second lockdown, and I was super bored. And you know, when artists are bored, they try to find new ways to create art.
True.
So when I wrote this song, I had a very different idea. It was very colorful in nature, just like the video turned out. And when the video was planned, in the beginning, I just thought, let it just be the process of paints being thrown on my face. Let's keep it simple. But then, in the end, a confidant told me to, he just put a worm in my head saying, maybe you might want to try something more than this. I mean, there's no limit in art, right? Why are you limiting to one concept? And I ended up doing a lot more, and this is how the video turned out. And I just called a bunch of my friends. I'm like, bro, can you, if you want to splash paints on my face, all anger, just go for it, you know, come.
All the ones you had a fight with.
Yeah, all the ones are pissed off. And they came, they turned up on time, and they really had a fun time whacking the paint on my face. I wasn't prepared for it entirely, but I knew what I was going to get into, because I told them, you know, it's okay. It's going to get into my mouth, my nose, it's going to go all over the place. It's fine, but let's do it. And it was good, and it did hurt a lot because it
I can only imagine. Jesus Christ.
But then, since the paints were a little diluted, the effect was less, the impact was less, but I deserved all the beating I got that day.
I'm sure, I mean, was it easy to take them off? Because considering the amount of
they
paint.
lasted for a few weeks. They lasted for a few weeks.
Jesus. Did you have any social gatherings or something arranged at that time? Thank God.
Luckily, no. No, but I did have back-to-back shoots, so I had to make sure to clean up my mess quickly.
I can only imagine the amount of mess that would have happened there.
Oh yeah. The after party, I handled the cleanup also of the set, so it was really fun, you know, clearing out the paints. I'm like, what was I thinking, man? It's all over the place. And I had promised my parents I wouldn't splash paints on the walls. And
what was happening in your house?
Yeah, we have a studio apartment there.
Okay.
So yeah, there's paints on the walls. Parents haven't gone there yet. And I am going to...
Maybe you can turn that into a walking piece of art, you know. Maybe.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely would be a surprise to them once they know.
True. But I really like the song. I really like the meaning behind it. Now, one of the things that inspire me when I look at artists like you is I want to understand what is the motivation behind that song. Where did you find that inspiration from, right? Now, I want to know, how did this come into picture? Like, where do you usually seek inspiration, and for this song, where did you go?
Oh, so inspiration can be taken from anything.
Okay.
Sometimes I take my mood swings.
Okay.
Sometimes I take my emotions into action, or the melody that just turns up in my mind. But for this song, I wanted to try something different, because I was being emotional in my previous tracks, but then I wasn't confident enough, or maybe it doesn't portray that way, but I felt it personally. So when I worked on this, I felt that maybe I should be a little more confident and, you know, bold in nature. And for the video, I'm usually a little conscious, body conscious a bit. So I was like, you know what, let's be a little vulnerable. Let's just do it. Let's pull out a lot of imperfections out there and turn it into a colorful mess rather. So that was one of the inspirations that I had. I was inspired by the idea of colors all over the place. So the color spectrum was where I had in mind. So when I created that complex character in the song, the line, "You bet that you're a walking piece of art," I took it literally. And I also not only put that person or that character, it's completely fictional by the way. So not only did I take that person and give that the definition of being a walking piece of art, I turned myself into a colorful mess too, because of the person impacting me. So that was the idea that I had in mind. So this is a very rough way of explaining how I wrote this.
Awesome. And does it also relate to your Instagram bio, which says all kinds of blue with a pinch of glitter?
Yeah, you could say that, because blue can mean two things. My normal lonely blues.
Okay.
Wordplay on my own song. And also my love for the color blue. I'm wearing blue for the matter.
Awesome.
And plus, with a pinch of glitter, I like to have some sparkle in my life.
Okay.
So
That's
I like
nice.
that.
Now, how was this collaboration? You going back to your period song, you had a wonderful collaboration with somebody like Saad Khan. Now, was that collaboration something you were prepared for, or what was your mental state of mind when that came your way?
I did not believe it was happening till the day of the shoot. I thought maybe it was just. At that time I was still starting out, so I had a bit of a problem in believing in myself. So when I received this offer to work here as the singer and to sing and be a part of it, I did not believe it till the day of the shoot happened. I'm not even kidding. I thought, you know what, maybe they will just get disappointed by the way I am and, probably replace me with another singer. I don't know. I cut my hair that week. Maybe my long hair attracted them. Now it's not going to happen because I look different. And I just used to find ways to sabotage my own excitement towards my small achievement right there.
Okay.
But then when I realized that it's actually happening, I was like, whoa, okay. It's actually happening.
Yeah.
Girl, you gotta calm down now.
Yeah. And I also think such an experience in many ways kind of humbles you.
Yes.
Yeah, and you realize that there's such a far road to travel.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And speaking of a far road to travel, I want to ask you this. Did you ever think when you were in school, like by the time you'd reach 22, you'd do 100 stage shows? What about that?
Nope. I wouldn't, I never thought of it, honestly. I did always have a feeling that I would be a singer because I always imagined myself in a punk rock band, with all black boots, full tattoos and, singing like a rock star. But I never imagined actually making it happen because I thought maybe I wasn't cut out for it. Yeah.
Fair enough, but now brings me to the next question. When did this self-awareness come about, like, hey, I can actually go do it? Like, when did that moment happen?
So this happened in 2017. There was this thing called Under 25 Summit, if you've heard.
Oh yeah, I've been there too.
So at that time, I had a lot of stage fright. I was really insecure about my vocals and everything. It was not that great because I'm not a trained singer. So when I went over there was this open mic and my friend, pushed me onto the stage. Like, I don't care, you're singing and coming back. I know you want to do it. You know you want to do it, so just do it. And I was like, okay, wow, I hope I just don't crack on stage. Because I really cracked on stage in this competition a few months before the event. And when I did that, luckily there was good response. And when it came to my turn of the open mic, everybody turned up to that stage and I'm like, holy shit, there are like 100 people over here, what the hell? I'm not prepared for this. But I pulled it off. I sang Thinking Out Loud by Ed Sheeran, and when I finished singing, this person asked me for my autograph and my YouTube channel, and I'm just like, I've never done any of this. I don't have a signature. What are you talking about? And that's what he was like, then you should start working on something. You're really good at it. Then I realized maybe it's much more serious.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's when I took it really seriously and became more aware that I am on to something.
I think I can definitely relate to you because I think I had a moment like that when I was about 18. So I remember I was a part of, Jain College, right? So we have a lot of forums and all of that. So I was a part of the science forum. I was just appointed head. I never thought I was deserving of it. So when I walked into a classroom for the very first time, I spoke with my heart out. Like, I did not have a script. I did not have any plan as to what I wanted to say. But I spoke about a story where I really felt insecure. And there was one kid at the end of the bench who raised his hand and he said, if I join the science forum, will I become like you?
Wow.
Right? I think moments like this are the most powerful moments because even you haven't seen yourself in that light, right? And all of a sudden you see somebody who's actually looking up to you and seeking inspiration. That's a life-changing moment.
Exactly. Maybe I think we used to, I don't know if you can relate to this. I think we have this phase where we beat ourselves up thinking we're not good enough.
Hell yeah.
When we feel that we're not good enough and when suddenly somebody tells us, no, you are actually good enough.
Yeah.
You're better than what you think. That's when you know that it's that glass breaking moment and
Correct.
then there's no limits and boundaries that you've set earlier.
And I think the glass breaking moment actually happens when not just one, but multiple number of people come because we are actually beings of doubt, right? We question everything that's happening around us, and when it happens at least, let's say, about 3 to 4 times, then you actually start crediting yourself and seeing that value that others see.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Vandita, I want to also understand that I know you're not doing this as a full-time profession, right? You're also working in a software company.
Yes.
I hope I'm right on that.
Yes.
Now, how are you managing both music and your work? I hate to use the word managing, but I still use it. So, how are you doing that?
Well, it's quite a challenge actually. I spend my week through with the main job that I have, and on my weekends, I spend my time with music. So I appoint my timings accordingly because through the week, as I'm working, I have decided to dedicate myself there. And during the weekend, since I have free time, I put this in. And I think up to the work of walking piece of art, I literally worked up to 7 days a week.
Wow.
Back to back for about 2-3 months, and it was so stressful. And then I finally took a break on one Sunday. Like, I cannot do this, but yeah, that's how I do it. I basically split my time accordingly so that I can give enough attention to it.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that I really like about you is the fact that you did not just drop your hands on your job, corporate job, and say, hey, I'm going to pursue music, right?
Yeah.
Because I really feel, especially when it comes to the word passion, most people between 18 to 24 make this mistake, right? They immediately jump onto their passion and they think they're chasing something in the abyss.
Yeah.
But I also tell people that you find yourself some amount of security. Simultaneously, as you move on, when you find validation, when you find the evidence that you can actually take off,
Exactly.
is when you go independent, right?
Yes.
What do you think about this, and what would you tell people who are trying to pursue their passion?
It's actually very subjective because I've seen people who have jumped into their passion and excelled amazingly, and I've also seen situations that it hasn't entirely worked out because of how art is not taken so seriously over here. And also, I'm in that category who's like, you know what, I'll play it safe, man. But if it depends on the situation right there. I mean, because my parents were really supportive, and I asked them, it was a very difficult decision to make in the first place. Because I got the job right before the pandemic and it had to start 6 months later.
Okay.
I thought I'd spend some time in music and figure it out. They said just do it, but because if you keep your passion and treat it like one, you will not want to search for any other escape. And if you keep this as your main job right away, you will start looking for escapes immediately.
Okay.
So I think you should just balance right now and then figure it out whichever you feel like. After a few years, it's up to you because whatever you do, it's up to you. You're an adult that way.
Correct.
So that's how I did it. So my advice would be talk to your parents. Not entirely, because some of them are not entirely open to art.
Very true.
But at the same time, understand as to how your returns are with respect to the art you make and the job you've taken up.
Correct.
So if you feel that you can sustain from the returns from your art, then definitely go with it.
Correct.
If not, find another way.
Find another way. Yes. Because most people forget that they have rents to pay, they have mouths to feed, and they got to take care of themselves financially, right? Before you become independent as an artist, I really believe you got to be financially independent.
Yes, yes.
Because if that doesn't happen, you don't have the confidence to throw yourself in that abyss and say, hey, I at least have some money in my bank account or in my investments that can protect me.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So I think what you said has a lot of validation there. The second point that I want to ask you is something that you said previously. You said you aren't trained. You aren't a trained professional, right? Now, I want to know, is there a point where you're actually considering to get trained? Number one.
Okay.
Number two is, if yes, how much does a mentor play a role in an artist's life?
Well, for the first question, if I'm planning to get trained, yeah, I'm actually considering it because I'm a bathroom singer. I'm not even kidding. It started off with my mom. I mean, it started off with me singing in the bathroom and my mom saying, Vandita, will you shut up? Enough screaming. And then I fine-tune my vocals. I try to understand, okay, if I sing like this, it sounds bad. Whereas if I sing like this, just like I used to imitate the singers' vocal modulation and understand how their skills were played out.
Okay.
So when I did that, I understood, okay, if I sing like this, it sounds good. So I had a bunch of artists singers that I used to follow.
Okay.
So I'm a mixed bag of all kinds of inspirations.
What are some of them?
One would be Lana Del Rey,
Okay.
Halsey,
Okay.
Melanie Martinez,
Okay.
Billie Eilish,
Okay.
recently.
Yes.
And I was also a huge fan of Green Day. My
Oh, Green
God.
Day, Jesus! That's what got into me. That's what got me into music. I think Boulevard of Broken Dreams and 21 Guns were like the songs that I always went to, and I got them from my dad.
Wow.
Yeah. So my dad, I don't know how he had it. Maybe dumb luck, but but he had it anyway. So I heard Boulevard of Broken Dreams in the car, and that's when I was really hooked onto it.
Right. I actually knew Boulevard of Broken Dreams when I was small, but I didn't know it was from Green Day.
Okay.
I discovered them again with their latest at that time it was Uno Dos Tres.
Yeah.
Tres or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So when I heard that, then when I traced back to this, I'm like, holy shit, it's this band. Okay, wow. And the singer was really cute, so was really obsessed for a while.
I also think that song, I can easily put my hands and say was the song of the generation.
Definitely.
That one and Smack That.
Oh my God, yes. Yes, that was actually one of my first few English songs that
Yeah.
I really learned
Yeah, true.
properly
Yeah.
when I was a child, and I didn't even know what it meant, and I'm like, smack that, and I'm just like, oh shit, maybe I was a bit of a pervert back in the day.
Yeah, happens a lot of times, right? When you're in college, you know the lines, you know the music, you know the artist, but you don't know the meaning.
Exactly.
Now, getting back to one question that I asked, if you actually consider going professional, do you think having a mentor as an artist is very important?
Well, yes. Given that you don't turn them into your everything.
Okay.
So the thing about being an artist also is that you're independent in your work. So when you have a mentor, you don't just get guided by their ideologies and their skills. I feel maybe a bit of advice once in a while is good.
Correct.
But you don't have to entirely turn into another person just because their ideologies don't fit to yours.
Correct.
So you could have a mentor, given that you know where to draw the line as to your ideas.
Correct. And it also, I think what you're trying to even say is, as you're protecting yourself, it's very important to safeguard that authentic self of yours.
Yes.
And simultaneously, to add on, I think most people who are watching this should also understand that sometimes you need not just have one mentor.
Yeah.
You can have a mentor for different phases of your life.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
And especially if you're looking for somebody who's good with finance, I'm sure many artists today, no matter how great they are, end up going broke or end up losing a lot of money or don't know how to even get money signed on a contract or something like that, and eventually learn the lesson and get to do that.
Yeah, that is actually a very scary thing because it's like you're walking on a line right there, and if you just miss a step or just not place your foot exactly on the line, you just fall off, and it's a mess to get back up there.
Correct.
So you have to be extremely careful and also have people that you trust around you for, how you work on your things.
Yeah.
Because you don't want people to take your art and then, misuse it just because you trust them with it.
Yeah, watch straight out of Compton. Yeah. Right. So I've watched a lot of these movies. One thing that I also understand is that a lot of times the artist could be the producer of that art, but at the end of it, every other piece of control could be in that other person's hand managing you.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's so important to be in the right hands at the right time at the right place.
Exactly.
Yeah. So moving on, I want to also understand what is your next plan? What are you thinking of for the next few years? Because like I said, you were juggling between a couple of things. That's your corporate work and your singing. Are you planning to take singing completely? What's your ideology?
My goal right now is to fill my own world into my own music and create a nice place for people to vibe along with. And for me, my own songs are very personal to me because I do not try faking, my emotions out there. I'm very authentic with whatever I write. Whether it's garbage, whether it's nice, it's personal to me. I do not have personal favorites. It's hard to decide. So I would probably just go along with that for now and then see where it goes, because it's hard to tell right now to decide as to picking one full career, I'll probably see. Maybe I might do excel really well in IT and keep this on the side. Maybe I'll do really good at this and take music up entirely.
Okay.
So it's a huge uncertainty. So let's keep it that way.
I think that's the ability of a true champion to really stand confident in the face of uncertainty, because you can't be certain no matter how good you are. Because I'll tell you, recently I was watching Kenneth Sebastian's podcast, and you know, for a guy like Kenny Sebastian, who's so accomplished, in his podcast with I think Karan Gill or Biswa, he says that even at 31, you and I aren't able to figure out what's next, right? So I think it's quite hard when people are entitled to figuring out the whole thing. Like, hey, at 25, if I'm really good at music, I know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So I really like your answer on that one. Now, I also want to ask you on the other flip side. You've done 100 shows. That means you have 100 different experiences with different people. Now, how do you think an artist, let's say if I'm 18 or 19 or 20, how can an artist as young as me make some money? If I want to make money in singing or any art form, what are some of the rules or some simple tips that you can give them? Like, these are the must-knows that you should know.
Well, in that category, I would say art is 10% of your work in music and 90% marketing. I actually came across this post recently. You don't go with, bro, my song will do its own, it'll do its own recognition.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. You need to cause enough waves for it in order to push it forward.
Correct.
Because if you just put out your work there, nobody's going to entirely notice. So you got to like make it more visible, like share it to people around, find ways to push forward, find ways to push your music ahead, and also create a nice, PR and be good with interacting with people as to why you're doing this.
Correct.
Stick to the trends, because apparently social media prefers that. I hate it. I hate the trends.
Yeah.
And
I'm with you.
You gotta be creative that way.
Yeah, true. And I don't know if you've seen my reels. Most of the reels that I do is just straight up content which has good information or good knowledge.
Yes.
But then I realized some of my other counterparts were dancing and doing things. I'm like, I cannot do that, you know. It's so hard for me to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but speaking of social media, I also feel social media, for our generation at least, has been such an incredible neutralizer, because back in the day, people could not get discovered, right? There's no opportunity for somebody else to find you. But today, if you're on social media, you have such a huge advantage compared to what people were 20 years ago, that if somebody, like for example, I'm sure people noticed you because Saad Khan himself, or somebody noticed you because of your Instagram or your YouTube or one of these things, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about social media as a role in an artist's life?
Social media is a very crucial tool that you can use in order to push your artwork. It can be a boon or a curse. Wait, boon or a bane? Whatever it's called. Bro, I suck at the words. So yeah, it could either be a blessing or a curse. That's the way to put it.
No, I think it's been a great blessing for you in many ways, but I also should tell you that as you climb that little ladder of success, one step at a time, your curses also do definitely
increase. It builds
increase.
up at the same time. So, because day by day, many artists are coming out there, putting their work, content or art. It's horrible to say content for an artist.
Yeah.
So when they put out their art over there, it seems like it brings in a sense of competition between these artists, which is a bad thing, because you're not supposed to be competitive.
Yeah.
I'm hella competitive only with myself.
Correct.
Like I look at my releases and be like, what does this miss? I think about what this release is missing, and then I'm like, no, have I done this better here? And then have I done this? Have I taken the next step? Am I better? So I'm very competitive with myself.
I think that's the best way to go, because if you're looking at somebody else out there, that person could be gifted financially better, or with their vocals much more experienced, or they might have a really good network around them to promote their shitty music. You cannot judge how you could beat them, but like you said, the greatest of people have always found their ultimate competition to be themselves.
Exactly.
And if you could be just, I always tell my students this, okay, in my class, if you could be just 1% better than yourself every single day, in a year, you're 365% better than what you were a year ago.
Wow, that's actually very thoughtful.
And I also think it does make sense because all these small steps, a journey of 1,000 miles does begin with one step, and as you continue in this journey, all of those will come through. So speaking of that journey, I want to understand what is some of the hardships, or let's say some of the tough times that you've gone through in your life, because we know that you're on that journey, you're trying to balance things, you're not just a good singer, you're turning out to be a great singer right now. Now, how do you say about the struggles and the not so rosy parts of your life?
That would go back to people. I was in an environment where the people around me told me that I couldn't sing for shit. Well, they weren't really lying. I was really bad back then, I'm not going to lie. But when I was willing to learn, they would discourage me. Why are you even trying? You're wasting your own time and you're wasting our time also. I had to pick my battles accordingly, and there was a lot of hate, not going to lie. And also the fact that when I did these live music shows, I had to come home really late at night. So that is a challenge too, unfortunately. Safety is a concern. Apart from that, the normal hate from social media, the bullying, the...
How do you get through these things? Because see, you and I, at least we have grown up, at least for the early stages of our childhood, without social media.
Yeah.
And by the time we came to our 11th and 12th is when we started seeing glimpses of it.
Yeah.
And degree, we were completely into it. But today's generation, especially if somebody is in their high school right now and who's 16, social media is in their DNA. Right
there, yeah.
What would you say about cyberbullying or social media bullying for kids like them?
Honestly, it sucks.
It does.
Nobody
It truly
deserves
does.
to be bullied. Nobody deserves to be harassed. So when you take a field like this, you gotta be very strong-headed because you're gonna face a lot of it.
Correct.
Or even existing rather, you're gonna face a lot of it. So you gotta be strong-headed regardless and not take it to your heart. I know sometimes it strikes few chords and it makes a person who is sensitive, it affects them really bad. And I think the only way to go about it is to call them out, whoever's taking you down. Like, you affect me, I'm gonna call you out right there. And okay, can I mention some excruciating detail which is really...
Yes, please, go on. I think this podcast is about being authentic, and let's go.
So I did receive a couple of unsolicited pictures of a person's genitalia. And I said, mine is bigger than that. And they put me. That's how I deal with it. So that's how it worked for me.
And I think a lot of us, especially our generation, with what you said, aren't prepared for it. Right?
No.
We aren't prepared for it in any sense or manner. But I think as the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And I think that's the only way you keep climbing the ladder of success.
Yeah.
Man, that's incredible. So Vandita, I'm super excited for what's next in terms of your career because I've been following you in terms of your music, which is amazing. And I look forward for you to become a full-time music professional. That's my dream for you.
Wow.
Okay, because I really think India requires more artists. Because art is nothing but emotion and human beings are nothing but beings of emotion.
Exactly.
And we truly deserve to be in that space, and all the very best.
Thank you.
And I think it's been a fantastic journey. Thank you for coming on the podcast.